Hi, my name's Bruce Elder. I am a filmmaker and a writer on media and was for many years a professor at what is now Toronto Metropolitan University. When I was an undergraduate at McMaster University, I I studied philosophy and began publishing poetry. That continued when I was a graduate student at the University of Toronto. My intention was to become a philosophy professor, and in addition to my academic work, to publish poetry. Well, the order of things had different ideas about what my future would be. I learned first that the likelihood of anyone of my age finding an academic position was just about nothing. I'm at the beginning of the baby boom, and universities had hired their quota of faculty. In fact, the there were predictions that student enrollments would be declining, and keeping faculty that they had would be a challenge. So the likelihood of my finding an academic position was just about zero. So I thought that perhaps I could support myself by making educational films. That was a viable profession at the time, and so I struck on the idea of doing that. But I had no real expertise in filmmaking, and I wanted to be a good craftsperson, and so even while I was a graduate student at the University of Toronto, I took a night course in filmmaking, and then learned that Ryerson, it was then Ryerson Polytechnical Institute, would be opening up an advanced diploma program, a year of advanced studies in filmmaking. I decided to do that, and while I was there, the administration, the department chair, asked me to stay behind to join the faculty and to establish courses in film history, film theory, film criticism. There were there were no universities in Canada and almost no universities in the United States that were offering degrees in film studies at the time. So the chair knew that I was interested in aesthetics, that I had been publishing in aesthetics, that I was interested in cinema, that I was interested in the visual arts, and thought that I could help them establish the courses in film studies. I agreed to join the faculty, and then in the spring, just before I was to start, I became anxious about what it would be that I could possibly teach in these courses. I had, of course, been reading. Eisenstein was a great favorite of mine, Bazin, Krakauer, Arnheim. I had been reading many of the classics in film theory, but I wondered what other people might be doing in film studies. And I was flipping through a wonderful magazine of the time, Filmmakers Newsletter, and discovered an advertisement for graduate courses in the making, appreciation, and teaching of film in New England. I looked at the roster of teachers, And it was absolutely extraordinary. Ricky Leacock was teaching documentary. Ed Emschwiller was teaching video. Shirley Clark was teaching performance video, video and dance. The year before, the previous year, Pat O'Neill had been teaching optical printing. It was just an extraordinary list of faculty members. So my wife and I enrolled in the program, and each evening, one of the instructors offered the entire student body a lecture on their work. Ricky Leacock showed his work in documentary to the entire group of students, so those who were not in Ricky's class could also see have the benefit of learning from him. Ed Emschwiller showed his work. Robert Greer showed his films and sculptures. And the third night we were there, a filmmaker showed a number of his works: Western History, The Door, Trip to the Door, Window Water Baby Moving, Thigh-Line Liar Triangular. I'm of course speaking of Stan Brakhage. And I looked at the work, and that very evening I said to my wife, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is the new poetry. This is electric poetry. And this is what I want to pursue. In fact, I then began sitting in on Stan Brakhage's class and learning as much as I could about Stan Brakhage, and went on to eventually become very close friends with Stan Brakhage. Here's a lovely little quotation from him. I feel closer to this epic maker elder than to any other living filmmaker, and I feel an aesthetic opposition of such intensity that I am certain I will be working the rest of my life uphill to offset this grand haunt with every visual means at my disposal. I embrace his making with all my heart, knowing full well the desperate, honest integrity of the man, the sweet graciousness of him, the largesse of the gift he has given. For he and I are face to face in this beseeming, meaningless turmoil of 20th century westward hoeing creativity, this time long shadowed by an impending darker age than ever before. Could I sing to Elder, you'll take the picture and I'll take the aura, and neither of us will outlive this current horror. That's from Stan Brakhage's Telling Time. Stan and I became eventually very good friends, and he certainly inspired me to begin to make a new kind of poetry. I had, in fact, when I took the job at Ryerson, imagined that I would take it only for a short period of time, and then that I would, when my business was set up, and that I would be an educational, I'd leave the job at Ryerson and become strictly an industrial educational filmmaker. Well, when I attended that screening, I knew that I would have to stay at Ryerson and to make a go of teaching, that I'd need the resources that Ryerson could provide me with in the way of mixing consoles and a laboratory, and set out and that became my work for the next many years. I might add that I came to love the work that I did at Ryerson, or Toronto Metropolitan University. Teaching became one of the great joys of my life. It delighted me to see the wonderful work that students were doing, and I counted myself very fortunate to be able to teach them the work of Ed Emshwiller, Stan Brakhage, Hollis Frampton, Mike Snow. In the early 2000s, I decided that it would be a good idea if I had a website. So a student and I began crafting one. Its major purpose was to just be an archive of the materials that I had generated in making the films that I produced from, say, 1975 until that time, the early 2000s, to archive the critical writing on my work and to archive the writing that I had done on, first, my own films, secondly, on the work of other filmmakers, thirdly, on topics in aesthetics and visual arts and poetry, and finally, work that I had begun doing with engineers in multimedia. We produced a website, and it was functional. It had certain values. It was compendious. It did serve as an archive, and it cross-referenced, and it linked documents on the website, documents both that I had written and had been written by others, to films that I had made. If you clicked on my film Lamentations, then you could get a list of all of the writings on the site that related to Lamentations. That would be useful, I thought, and we managed to work that out quite nicely. It also included image galleries for each of the films. So if you clicked on Lamentations, it included stills for that film. Okay. That served well for a number of years, but of course, website design changed very rapidly between, say, the early 2000s and 2024. That year, I decided that I needed to update the website, that we needed to make something that would be more visual, that would be less cluttered than the earlier version, that would be easier to navigate. And so I contacted a group of developers, DevDec, and asked them to work with me on developing a new, more attractive website. The first thing that I wanted from the website was to offer excerpts from the various films that I had done. By the time that by 2024, both Revoir in Paris and the New York Filmmakers Co-op made my films available for streaming. You'd pay a small price and could stream the films. Moreover, Black Zero had made a couple of DVDs and were planning on producing DVDs of more of my films, so that the site would include excerpts, that they would look at a low-resolution excerpt and might decide to go to Revoir or the New York Filmmakers Co-op and purchase streaming rights for the film, or alternatively go to Black Zero and buy a DVD if it was available. So let's take a look at that. So this is the landing page of my new website, and Here are the 4 headings: biography, films and projects, writing projects. There are the books that I have written. There's the full bibliography and a contact site. We'll go back here now to films and projects, which is what I wanted to talk about first. You see the films are organized. I have done over all of the media work that I've done over my life is organized into 2 very long compendious works: the Book of All the Dead, which I made between 1975 and 1994, and the Book of Praise, which I did between 1997 and 2025. I mentioned that my hope was that people would look at some of these. These are the excerpts, and then here are the full streaming sites. Okay, the Book of All the Dead, and then the Book of All the Dead has 3 regions. It's based on Dante's Commedia and Ezra Pound's Cantos, and another massive influence on it, as well as Homer's Odyssey, is Brackage's The Songs. When I met Brackage when he was teaching in New England, he was giving a class on the songs, and the songs are, I think, the most Poundian moment in Brackage's oeuvre. Of course, the cantos, canti are songs, and Stan's work was called the songs. This work influenced by the Commedia, by the Odyssey, by Brackage's songs, and by Pound's Cantos, divided into 3 regions. Obviously, Inferno. In my cycle, it's the System of Dante's Hell. Region 2, Purgatorio. In my cycle, the Consolations, Love is an Art of Time. Region 3, obviously Paradiso. In my cycle, it's Exaltations in Light of the Great Giving. Here, System of Dante's Hell. These are the films that are comprised in the System of Dante's Hell, in the order in which they appear in that cycle. Here is the first part of Lamentations. You click on that, and you can watch this film, excerpts from that section, just over half an hour of excerpts from a 3.5 hour long film. But when you click on it too, then up come all of the articles that I have written on it, the various material that I generated from producing the material, scripts and surtitles and the like, and other people's commentary on my work on Lamentations. So here's a review of Lamentations available. Here is a long letter in response to some queries by Dr. Archie Henderson. It ended up published in James Miller's the Dante and the Unorthodox, the Aesthetics and Transgression. It just outlines my thoughts on the relationship between the Book of All the Dead and Pound's Cantos and Dante's Commedia. So you can find that. You can find an image gallery from the films, so people who are writing on the film can download images that they can use in the essays that they are writing. A lot of work, and I must say DevDec did some really quite splendid work in. We had that links between the films and the archived writings on the films and image galleries, but DevDec certainly helped to expand that and to make the it much more navigable. Another feature of the publishing, on page 2, recordings of lectures that I gave. Here is a talk that I gave at the Centro de Capacitación Cinematográfica in Mexico City, talking about my films.
Bueno, bienvenido.
A lecture that I gave on what I call electromorphic art. So, as well as the written presentations, there are a number of audio recordings, audio and video recordings of lectures, and I have given our introductions to films that I have given. Also, here is the second part, Book of All the Dead, and here is an hour of low-res stereo sound, not 5.1. It's actually in 5.1, and the surround sound is very important. I've become very convinced that this new media that we're working with is really that people call digital video. I think it's a misnomer. Is really, first of all, immersive sound. And anyway, here is go back, you'll have to cut that out. I also put up, and this was a lot of work on the The film was made in very peculiar ways. I have become convinced, as I said, that this new medium that is emerging is not does not have a strong resemblance to sound film. That it's not primarily a visual medium that is accompanied by sound, very often speech. That's not what the medium is at all. That it is, I use the slogan, sound first. That it is primarily sound and immersive sound, and that it exists in what McLuhan, following Ted Carpenter, called acoustic space. And so the I provided a lot of imagery of from the film, but also
A smother of snow stalls cars in amazement. Dollops of white on evergreen branches cleanse the light into a piquancy, and then refract it to a silver tinsel sheen. Every object enters into an tensile accord with its garrison opposite, before sending word to the heavens that the time for revel and jubilation has come.
What is central to the film, I actually began developing this form well before I transitioned to digital media. But at the center of the work is a poem, and the imagery of the work comes from a poem. The poem is read by synthesized voices and by human voices.
All is still. It is winter. It is winter. All things are frozen. This is the season of death.
I never walk anywhere. It's not that I prefer to drive. It's just there is no place to go. Nothing changes here. Always the same dark ground. Always a terrifying moisture. Always the same cold. The same words again fail to make the invisible manifest. The liturgy continues in spite of itself and the uncertainty of ever crossing the threshold. Night is trapped in skeins of vibrating protoplasm, and birdsong weaves threads of sunlight around them to render the sadness more poignant. Filigrees of veins help turn the infinite anguish oriental. In the early morning, a pigeon had come to the window ledge. Let the open air and the power of light become our being. We, whose colleagues glint daggers of death at us daily in the corridors of a pseudo-university.
The winds carry Mary's breathing into my windpipes to heal their eczema and to awaken my sleeping veins.
The fire within becomes joyous with love.
Mary's ears receive the unpronounced word and mix it into fire to embolden the cosmos and augment its energies.
The winds carry Mary's breathing into my windpipes to heal their eczema and to awaken my sleeping veins.
The fire within becomes joyous with love.
Mary's ears receive the unpronounced word and makes it into fire to embolden the cosmos and augment its energies.
We are forever in oneness.
Rejoice, for lightning's joy bolts across the heavens. Rejoice in the reawakening of Adam and Ignacio Sanchez. Rejoice, for Eve's tears have stopped flowing.
Rejoice, for there will be surcease of sorrow.
Rejoice in the reawakening of Adam and Ignacio Sanchez.
Rejoice, as dreams show you standing before the...
No, that's Queen Elizabeth.
Rejoice, for a new vision allows you to see into depths that angelic vision cannot penetrate.
Rejoice in the star that leads the sun to victory. Rejoice in the matrix that brings eternity into time.
Anyway.
Who by charity resurrects through morbid Adam, slain at Jerry the given. Who by charity resurrects through morbid Adam, slain at Jerry the given of time. Who by charity resurrects through morbid slain at Jerry the given of time.
So, all of these are lines from the poem that's at the center of the piece. One of the things that fascinates me about acoustic space is that it's really multimodal, multifocal. We can listen to many things all at once, unlike the eye, in which we deal with information serially, linearly, one bit at a time. Sounds, we can listen to many sounds at a time. And sounds of different sorts. It's really, acoustic space is multimedial, multifocal, and so it also allowed me to So I used AI to generate a lot of used AI to produce variations on many, oh, here's some of them. Anyway, enough of that. I wanted to suggest the various ways that sound, that this new medium would use varieties of sound occurring simultaneously, placed in different areas of the screen, that it could be multimedial, multifocal. So anyway, I put up a lot of materials from that went into the making of Alone. So there are I've gone over the films and projects, writing and publications. These are the books that I have written over the years, and then here is a bibliography of my writing on here, film theory on scanning vision. It's from an interview with Leanne McClarty in Spiral. Oh, an interview on the Book of All the Dead from Dr. Antonio Bisaccia from the University of Bologna. So my writing on my films, writing materials that I generated that were incorporated into my films. Speech, sermon given at a church in Germany at the beginning of the Holocaust, and his condemnation of the Nazis. Anyway, and it's read in the here are texts that were used in various speakers on nudism. Went into The Young Prince, the poem that's at the center of Alone, and then my writing on other filmmakers, on Eisenstein, technical writing on multimedia work that I was doing with engineers, writing on Carolee Schneemann, on poetry, Kenneth Rexroth, probably the thinker who has influenced me more than anyone else. An interview with Michael Snow on sound, sound recording, making music of recorded sound, the duality of consciousness and its alienation from paradoxes arising from these matters. Michael liked this piece. He thought it drew together the various aspects of his work. Anyway, and then clippings from advertisements and that sort of thing for and screenings of my films. A retrospective of the complete Book of All the Dead at Cinematheque Ontario, and there was a statement that I came out with it. A very nice statement, very well done. Anyway, journalism on my films. So all of that material is up there, and as I say, cross-referenced with the films. And then I'm surprised how many have done this. You can send me a question, and I'll get your email address and so on, and respond to that. So that's basically what this is. Okay, so I've gone over the excerpts from the various films, and as I mentioned earlier, my hope is that people will look at the excerpt and perhaps then decide then to go and purchase streaming rights. So there, you can go to Revoir and purchase Region 3 of the Book of All the Dead, or any of the films from it, Flesh Angels, Look We Have Come Through, Exaltations in Light of the Great Giving, and so on. Or alternatively, can go to the New York Filmmakers Co-op and look at the films of mine, the Book of All the Dead, and there are the various films from it, and they're streaming there. Or alternatively, can visit Black Zero and purchase Crack Brutal Grief, or that's the only one they have up there now. There are others. They can print Crack Brutal Grief. Where's a man whose life is full of woe? Well, not there, I guess. So it goes. You can purchase some of my films through Black Zero. Too bad they're not up there. Oh well.